Hey geeks, welcome to another exciting episode of Rockin The Code World with dotNetDave. I'm dotNetDave. Oh, I'm David McCarter. Sorry, I messed it up already. And this is show 61. I can't believe we've done 61 shows already. It feels kind of like we just started the show. I don't know what Simon thinks, but I can't believe it's 61. Huh. Anyway, let's get into the show today. My special guest is Steve Bilogan. He's a senior engineer at Uno platform. So I'm really excited to talk to him again about the Uno platform, or talk about the Uno platform again. So we'll be asking some questions. So if you have questions about the Uno platform, please put them in the chat now. We'll get to them as soon as we can. And hi, everybody who's joined already. I'm glad you're here. Where was I going to go after this? I forget. Anyway, let's go to the next slide. So, please keep thinking about the Ukraine until this horrible war is over. I don't know why my picture is going kind of slow. Anyway, don't forget to think about our Ukrainian friends. Things are not getting better there. And I just saw a tweet this morning. The U.S. might be sending them some planes, which I hope we do. I'm sure I'm tired of hearing about this and affecting the entire world and gas prices and prices on goods and everything. And we kind of get back to normal. And I think if we get rid of this war, that'll be a step in the right direction. So please think about our friends there. And if you can help it in any way, please reach out and help these people that are trying to protect their country from a terrorist, if you ask me. So, and don't forget, next month, less than a month away, is the Code Quality and Performance Conference, virtual again this year. Last year, we had over 72,000 viewers of this conference. It's the largest one-day conference that CSharpCorner's ever done. We're bringing it back this year. And Simon and I met this week, and we started picking sessions for the conference. So I'm really excited about presenting this conference to you. And we're still accepting some more papers. So you still have a little bit of time to submit your paper if you want to speak at this conference. So if you want to speak in front of 72,000 plus people, submit your papers now. I'll entertain any idea. I hope you'll not only attend it, but I hope if you can submit a paper for it. August 19th, next month. My latest article on CSharpCorner is called "We Must Demand Quality in Software and in Ourselves." This is actually something I've been talking about for a number of years at the end of my conference sessions. And so when I was looking for article ideas, I came across this image that you see there. And I thought maybe I should write an article to describe exactly what I mean about those three statements. And so that's what that article tackles. So I hope you'll go check out my article, and also tweet or email me if you have article ideas. I'm always looking for article ideas. And speaking of articles, I've completed 2 new articles for CSharpCorner. The first one is coming out next week. And in that one, because of the subject, I will be giving away some free software. So how do you win that free software? Well, first you have to follow me on Twitter. Those of you who don't like Twitter, you have to follow me on Twitter. And then at the very end of the article will be instructions on how you can enter to win free software. So, and the software pertains to that article. So I know you all want a copy of it. So stay tuned next week. Keep your notifications handy, I guess. All right, let's welcome Steve. Steve is currently a senior engineer at one of the main contributors to the open source Uno platform. I like short descriptions. Hey, Steve.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good.
And
you?
I don't know why my picture is so slow, or maybe I'm just seeing it slow. Is my picture slow to you, Simon? I feel like everybody's watching me in slow motion. Yeah, I wonder why. Oh well. You'll just have to watch me in that weird thing that like the police did when they back in the 80s had that video where they're all going kind of slow and you know who knows, technical difficulties I guess, but that's the world of software, right?
Yeah.
I don't think there's one day goes by I don't have an issue with some piece of software, right? I don't know about you, but it's
Yeah,
every day is frustrating, right? It's just uh, and that's why my latest article is tries to tackle that. You know, how can we make software better? And to me, you have to start off with quality in yourself, and then quality in the software you write, and in the quality in the software that you use, right? Because if we don't bitch about software, it's not going to get better, right? It's companies aren't going to do make something better if you don't complain about it, or unless they see a money value in it, right? But the thing I started to say, and I got off topic as usual, is I invited Steve on the show because I liked his tweets. He was somehow, I got connected to your tweets, and you were doing some tweets a while ago, and I go, this guy seems interesting. Let's have him on the show. So those of you out there that want to get on the show, or maybe thinking about being on the show, put out some good tweets, and I just might invite you. So, or you can always reach out to me and ask me. Anybody's welcome. I'm not going to say I'm going to say yes, but anybody's welcome to ask, right? Because if you don't ask, it's not going to happen, right? That's what Simon says to me. He says all the time, he goes, Dave, how do you get these awesome guests on your show? And I say, I just ask them. That's as easy as it is, to me at least. So anyway, where are you joining us from?
I am from Kingston, Ontario, in Canada.
Cool. And how's the weather up there today?
It's really good, actually. It's very hot here. Yeah, it's super hot for the last few days. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody in America seems to be burning up, except for here in San Diego, where along the ocean here where I live, this whole week has been like in the low 70s to the mid 70s. So yeah, sorry, all of you out there that the weather sucks, but you're always invited to come to San Diego and hang out with me. And if you've never been here, I've lived here most of my life, and I will show you around. So anybody's welcome to come visit me. And Mahesh is doing that now, who runs CSharpCorner. So I enjoy hanging out with Mahesh and showing him things, him and his wife and kids. So most people don't know this, but I used to be a tour guide back in my 20s of San Diego. I would take people on tours of, visitors on tours in San Diego, take them all around the hot places or the good places to see in San Diego. So anyway, going off topic already. I told you sometimes, I don't know where the show's going, and if Simon's not bugging me, then sometimes it goes a weird direction. So, the court before. So, if anybody has any questions about the Uno platform, please ask Steve. He's here. He's one of the major contributors to Uno. So first, for all of the people out there that are watching the show right now who don't know what Uno is, can you give us a brief description exactly what Uno is?
Yeah, sure. So we don't have to show this. I'll put the slide that I usually say this on, but it's fine. But basically, like the one-liner introduction. So Uno platform, it's an open source project which helps developers build single code base C# and WinUI XAML applications for non-Windows platforms. So basically, we're taking the WinUI API for building those WinUI applications, and we're just stretching it across iOS, Android, Linux, the web, everything basically. So you just have a single code base for your code behind, but as well as your UI logic as well. Yeah.
And how long has Uno been around?
Well, technically we open source. We have a slide for that too. Technically, we open sourced. I have a little thing. We'll go through all the, okay. So technically, you could say it was all the way back in 2013. That's when this really started to become a thing internally with the company, how we built our apps for our clients. And so 2018 was when we open sourced, basically. And quickly right after that, that was during Microsoft Build. Our CEO and some other people were there, and WebAssembly was like becoming, it was becoming the thing. People were talking about it. So they figured out how to, get Mono up, or the .NET team actually put Mono out in their WebAssembly, and we, got it to run with Uno, and then they were just running across the build floor, like trying to show people and trying to get in contact. Like Scott Hunter comes over, they start calling people, you know what I mean? So like it was like a big frenzy, and then since then it's just been like onwards and onwards, adding more and more features. We release as much as we can, and like now we're up to 2020. I think I'm actually missing a 4.4 right now, but anyway. It's just been we've had a good amount of releases every year, and we're already on pace for many more this year than last year. So yeah, it's exciting times.
Cool. And so Uno is a framework for doing cross-platform applications, which everybody's interested in these days, because I remember back when mobile apps started, and it was kind of a headache, because we have to code the mobile part in this language, and we have to do this language for another mobile platform, and this language for another mobile platform, and that cost was just astronomical. All the different platforms that these apps wanted to support, right? So now that Maui is coming out, what are the big differences between the Uno platform and Maui?
So I mean, I'm not going to pretend to be any sort of expert like on the Maui or any of the other cross-plat plays, but we all generally are trying. Yes, one of the problem space that we're trying to attack in general is that domain where you need a team of different talent pools for every single platform that you want to build for, and so we'd like to bring that all into one. Right. What we like to say is that sort of the differentiator, I guess, is we like to say that we're like a pixel perfect sort of platform, right? So basically, you have two ends of the spectrum when it comes to Maui, when it comes to other platforms. So on one end of the spectrum, you have canvas rendering, where you just have a blank page or whatever, and every single control is drawn with the 2D graphics engine of whatever it's building, say with Skia. And on the other side, you have that native rendering, right, where you have an abstraction layer on top of the iOS SDK, the Android SDK, and so and then they have their own APIs for like a button, and then it brings up the proper button. So the thing that I would like to see, or like to say that is a differentiator for us, is we sort of see ourselves in the middle of those two things, right? So we are of course an abstraction layer on top of all these native SDKs. So we are a native framework on top of these, but we also, through the power of what came with the WinUI APIs that we're replicating, is this idea of lookless or lookless controls, or control templates, basically. So in our case, you are given a blank slate like you would be on the canvas rendering, and but it is actually attached to the actual platform widget itself. So when you ask Uno for a button, it gives you the iOS button, it gives you the Android button, the native one, so you don't lose any of those platform-rich features like localization or accessibility or copy paste or drag and drop. But those all still work, right? But you get a blank canvas on top of that to use the XAML primitives to draw it however you'd like. And so obviously with an Uno, when you do a new Uno app, everything sort of looks the same across all the platforms because of that. So by default, they all follow that fluent Windows theme, but it's totally customizable up to you, right? And just again, like we're trying to solve some of the same problem areas, but we each do it in different ways. It's not like we're enemies or anything. There's just different paths that people are taking. So like some have decided to build their own API layer, like to find a new one. We really think WinUI as an API is very robust, and it allows for any type of form factor to deal with. So that's what we like chose to replicate and basically build with that. And then, some platforms are more important to other teams as rather than ours, so we're really into or believe in the power of WebAssembly and being able to build natively for the web, but also Linux as well. We have Linux, which uses Skia as a backend, right? So it's drawing the controls there, and it uses the GTK shell if that's what you'd like to use. So there's a lot of Linux support out there that people seem to really love, that we're really excited about, and the web too is a big thing for us.
Yeah, cool. While you were talking about that, it kind of reminded me of when not long after, I guess, Microsoft bought Xamarin, and there's tons of Xamarin sessions, and I thought, well, maybe I'll rewrite one of the free apps I have for developers in Xamarin. And the first thing I ran into was, I would have to end up, I'm not talking about the UI at this point, I'm talking about the code behind, but, I would have to end up writing, multiple, I don't know what the word is, multiple, I would have to write different ways of going against the file IO, on each different platform. And that kind of turned me off, going, well, why can't I just use one and you guys figure it out? Right. And so how does that work with the different OS layers and talking about something as specific as, for example, file IO?
So those things are usually, they're being built into the platforms now, and they used to exist as, say, Xamarin Essentials or whatever. But in our case, we have it's not only the UI APIs of this Win UI world. It's also the non UI, like the WinRT APIs for file open, file safe pickers. I'm trying to think of other stuff, but there's these APIs that already exist that have been defined by Microsoft that we can build underneath and plug it into the proper areas of an iOS file system or of the Android file permissions and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
So there's already pre-built API. We didn't have to define new APIs on top of that. We'd use the ones coming from the Windows world, right? So there's still we still now as of 4.0, this is still more for UI stuff, I guess. But now we're building a bigger and bigger sort of tool set or toolbox that you can use with Uno. So you get not only things like the basic UI, but you could bootstrap your app with architecture components for navigation, for logging, for all these things as well, and then pre-built complex UI objects that you can drop into your app as well. But the non-UI APIs that we utilize are well defined and easy to implement, or easy to get your head around, and then we just do the implementation stuff behind the scenes.
Oh, cool. And you're on version 4.4, and Maui's on version 0, right?
Yeah. So we've been around for a little while, so we're happy. We're doing well, but the thing is, I don't know. For me personally, it's great. I love cross-platform, right? So bring as many cross-platform plays as you can, because I think it's really what people need at this point. Doing everything differently at each point, it gets to be a big thing. So because the other problem domain that we sort of jumped into as well is what we don't think about as much, but it's not so much only teams that want to bring all these apps into one sort of development stream. It's also older enterprise applications that are running on, I don't know, WPF or whatever, these types of applications. You can modernize them, and rather than having a giant rewrite, you can bring these into the web, say with WebAssembly with Uno, right? So it's another problem space that we kind of jumped on, which is with the WebAssembly, which we really, really are excited about.
Yeah. It's I was thinking about when I started software engineering, the choices were as far as platforms that people used, the choices were very narrow. There was, for at least user platforms, we either had, Windows or Mac. That was it. We didn't have phones. We barely had the internet at that point. We didn't have a lot of mobile apps. well, we didn't have a lot of mobile apps at all, really. And
Right.
so, back when I started, things were a hell of a lot simpler. But now you have every freaking platform, imaginable, including my refrigerator, right?
Right.
So, or your toaster oven or something like that, where you can write apps for, right? And
Yeah.
even my stupid, scale has a Bluetooth app, right?
Right.
The weight
Yeah.
scale has a Bluetooth app. I'm pretty
Yeah, it's
soon
everywhere now.
it's we're not going to be able to get away from it.
Yeah.
So what's new in the now that we've kind of introduced Uno and what's new in the Uno platform since
So
like
yeah,
when we had your CEO on or
yeah, the CTO, yeah. So,
CTO? Right.
yeah, we can talk about some stuff. So I mentioned it a bit before. Let's go to, yeah. So one of the big things, so as of 4.0, and we're continuing on into the 4.0 releases, we have introduced a good amount of, like I mentioned before, we're broadening our toolkit basically with Uno as well. So obviously we're adding more UI features and performance and all those things as well. But we wanted to sort of bring the platform part of Uno platform into play. And so now one of the big things that we created was these Uno extensions, basically, that come as a separate package, but they mesh well exactly with all the other Uno things I'm going to talk about as well. So basically, these are extensions that are to help you bootstrap a new Uno application to get started with proper architecture. So it's the idea that you shouldn't ever have to write code from scratch or commonly use functions while retaining an option to easily extend these features as well. So everything that we built here, it's not strict, it's very extensible. And so Microsoft themselves had extracted this host of capabilities outside of ASP.NET. So this is really that app host builder stuff that we'll get into. And so basically they made them available, this app hosting pattern through the Microsoft extensions. And so covering hosting, like I said, logging, configuration, etc. And so in turn, the Uno platform extensions are based on those Microsoft extensions. So we get cool things like in the introduction of the navigation extension for Uno platform, right? So we provide it's a unified paradigm for all types of navigation. So frame-based navigation, modal nav, navigations based on selections in a list, pickers, and returning data from your navigation stack and all that. And so this new navigation system, so it's fully declarative and it actually can be used directly from XAML. You don't even have to have your navigation logic be in code behind or in your C# code or anything like that. You could do it directly from XAML or obviously from your view models. And it supports all your favorite, it supports any type of presentation pattern that you're going with. There's a lot to dig into there. So a detailed explanation and a very good presentation about this would be for Uno navigation extensions would be Nick Randolph's talk from UnoConf, our most recent UnoConf conference, which is available on YouTube. I'll just go through some of the other ones. So there's also Uno Reactive, right? So there's another extension here. And so this is basically our play on, there it is. So it's MVUX, right? So it's a reactive sort of presentation model or framework, right? So it's introducing this notion of feeds. And so feeds are inspired by things like the Kotlin flows or the Scala streams, I think, or the reactive extensions in themselves. So we can easily package various states that data can go through into a single dedicated interface of like an iFeed of T or something. And so you're enabling reactive, declarative, and immutable programming style when you're dealing with this. Do I have my laser pointer? Laser pointer. Yeah. So basically, you have your MVU, right? It's model view update, and then we have the special sauce that comes in with this is the X part. So it's the bindable part. So we can jump into code after, but I'm just going to go through this stuff. But I do have examples of all this. But basically, you build your view model as you normally would, and what gets done is a bindable version of that view model gets created at build time, and that builds all the magic behind the scenes, right? So it deals all with the notify property change and all that stuff, and it knows how to deal with these feeds of data, and it does all that magic for you, dealing with the states and all that. And so you just gotta data bind like you would within your view. It talks to the bindable one, and then it goes back, and and you just do your little your normal logic as you would in your non-generated version of that view model.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the two pieces that the developer writes are the view and the actions, right? And you take care of the middle. You take care of the middleware, which is the bindable X, right?
Yeah. So we can look into code in a bit, because that one's a little bit. We got to get into the details. But the other thing I really wanted to is the toolkit. So this is the thing that I was more involved with. So maybe I could talk a bit more to this. Because the other ones are awesome, but there's definitely talks on those that go into way more detail. But for the toolkit, this is basically our work on a multi-platform first UI component library, right? So it's to speed up your development. So it provides a set of high-level UI controls designed specifically for multi-platform responsive applications. And we'll get into how that works in a second. But in addition to, we have other controls that are just pre-built that we can now use. So things like card, like chip from material design, dividers, segmented control, sliding segmented control. We have demos for all this as well. But just the big guys are basically the navigation bar and the tab bar are our big sort of top level navigation components that we've built. And so it provides it provides a single source implementation for things like a back button within your application, right? So across mobile, across web, across all the other platform device form factors and sort of recipes for how you do navigation within these different platforms, it is able to do that all by itself now, so you no longer have to worry about those things. So that was a tricky thing to implement, but it was it really pays off, and it's able to it has perfect, well, not it, I guess the navigation extensions that we just saw have hooks into this as well, so they all seamlessly work together. And the same thing again, like the tab bar, like as you're used to seeing. It's the tab bar at the bottom that is also a top level navigation component, and so it's for tab based navigation, right? And
that looks cool.
Yeah, and so
because I know for sure that I don't think we ever have enough controls, right? And because somebody's always coming up with some kind of new way of doing something, right? And so people like that. So we never have enough controls, and I imagine, since you work on this part of it, that making sure that these controls look the same on all the different platforms is probably not an easy task, is it?
Yeah, well, for the most part, there's a little bit of trickiness here when it comes with the. Oh, did I go back? With the navigation bar. So the navigation bar itself, I should have mentioned this, is on the mobile platform, right? So on iOS and Android, what's actually happening is the XAML defined navigation bar that you put in your page doesn't actually get rendered. It actually goes out and it grabs the native UI navigation bar for iOS, or the native toolbar for Android, and then it just forwards it forwards the properties that you set on the nav bar to those native views, and then it does all the logic of talking back and forth when you need to interact with it and things like that. But then on WebAssembly, on Windows, on all the other platforms, right? It's the XAML drawn one, and sort of the same idea as the tab bar. It's that one's all done through the XAML, and it's really, for the most part, it's using all the XAML primitives and all those things that we already have working for all these platforms, right? So you just slap a grid on with your background, and you put say an items control, and you put buttons in the items container style. That's just basic Uno stuff. That's basic WinUI stuff. So all of that just came out of the box for free with Uno, right? It's basically just the small amount of logic now that lives in Toolkit to do the navigation part or do whatever the selection of these controls. But the actual visual structure is is just a normal XAML that you put, and you don't really have to worry too much. There are obviously some cases, but you don't really have to worry too much about which platform you're running on when you're drawing these controls, because that's what Uno does for you in the first place, right?
Yeah. Neutron Star looks amazing. Can we see some code? Do you know this person? Because I think they're trying to set you up to do some code demos. So do you want to show some code? Like, for example, let's start off with like the toolkit, since you're more familiar with that. And how do you actually do that, in code?
So let's go. Oh, that's it. Okay. So, okay, we don't need to do this sample. If we were to look, okay, so I jumped ahead a little bit, but in what the code that we're about to look at and the application that, actually, you know what? I'm going to do this first. So we are going to be looking at this application. And so what I just opened up right here is our Figma file, right? So this is where designers will go and design the screens for their application, right? So we have a reference application called Uno Commerce, or the Commerce application, right? So it just says splash screen, login screen, blah, 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 all this stuff. And you can notice that in the design, we have, that's the nav bar at the top. It's at the top of the stack, so there's no back button. And the bottom tab bar is there as well. So those are toolkit controls, right? And they come pre-built within this Figma file. So if I go to components, right, we have all the possible components that you can build an Uno application with. And those include all the default WinUI controls and all the toolkit controls as well, right? So you have your navigation bar here, which has, all its different variants and all that fun stuff. We're going to get into code. I just wanted to show that because it has something to do with the toolkit. So if we were to look at something like, something basic first. Yeah. But
before you go on, just so I understand, so you actually create the you actually create the UI actually in a web app, like you're showing here. Is this the app that creates the UI?
So on its own, this is another cool thing that that I should have explained better. But on its own, Figma is basically the designers do this, and then they hand off this file to the developers, and the developers have to look at it and replicate and code the UI to match as closely as they can, right?
Oh, okay. All right.
And so it does come with, like, you can build a component library, so you don't have to redraw everything all the time. The cool thing is, what we have done at Uno is we've created a plugin for Figma, so we're actually able to look at this for example, the login page. We can run our Uno plugin. It'll open up a small little WebAssembly Uno app. So this is it's actually written with Uno. And if you were to go here and let's go to light mode. Okay, so you can go here, and if you were to refresh with whichever page you're looking at, you could see. Can I zoom? Oh god, that's weird. Okay. Okay. Anyway, what you're looking at is an actual live running WebAssembly application using the generated XAML that we did by parsing that Figma file for the login page. So like this is like a real page that has been generated, and you can look. Oh boy.
Or you can see the code behind.
Yeah, I can't.
Or the XAML. You can see the XAML. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, you can see. So this is what that page basically looks like. And so we'll show the toolkit stuff now. But the only thing I want to pay attention to is so we have everything here. So it's pre-built with the resources that come with our component library within Figma for material, at least. And it's generating, the WinUI controls as well. You have a sneak peek at a toolkit control right here, which is called auto layout, which we'll look in a second. But that's basically our magic sauce of how I got to say all toolkit controls are basically multi-platform targeted first, right? So they are out of the box reactive and responsive to your design, and that's all thanks to things like auto layout. So now we can look at code. Sorry, that was a big explanation, but it needed to be done because this whole application that we're looking at right now was generated, or the UI at least was generated with that Figma plugin,
Figma.
right?
Okay.
So this page we're actually looking at is here, is this deals page here. Okay, so you have your navigation bar, you have a tab bar at the top, you also have a tab bar at the bottom. They're just styled differently, right? So if we were to look, this and all that was generated from Figma. So you see everything's wrapped in these auto layouts. There's no magic numbers or this has to be 800 pixels because that's what it was in the thing. It's all based on like a flexboxy type of counter and primary alignments and all that stuff. And so here's where you see the navigation bar we were talking about, right? So you don't really have to do anything other than drop it in here. Even the styles for it get generated based on the variants that you choose within Figma. So like that's what I was saying before. So if you were to run this on Android or iOS, this wouldn't show up, right? It would be the native one.
Right.
It's just that we would take anything that's defined within its style or its background and forward that on. And then we have that tab bar. So that tab bar at the top here, this tab bar here, basically you just toggle between deals and favorites. So that would be this tab bar item here, which is another toolkit item. It's this idea of a top tab bar, right? So this is and all that we're looking at here is sort of within these are look list controls at its core, right? But these are using the built-in material styles that we have within our Uno material library, which we can look at in a bit. And then we have those two tab bar items, right? So the deals and the favorites. And if we were going to talk about what I mentioned before, you can have all your navigation logic be defined actually within your XAML only. So if I'm looking here, this UEN framework namespace is the actual Uno extensions navigation UI component. And so if we were to look at that, where is it? There it is. Yeah, so on this tab bar item, so the extensions all work with WinUI controls as well as the toolkit controls. So on this actual tab bar item that is clickable, right, you set its region name to deals tab. And if I were to look where else deals tab is, it would be here on the view for what you're going to see on the deals page, right? And so that's basically it. It matches. If you tap on that tab bar item, it finds a region that's defined within the visual structure that has that matching tab, and it will deal with any disappearing or hiding any other same level regions and displaying this region because it's been activated by the navigation extensions. And so feed view is another extension that we have, like I was talking about, from reactive, right? So it's the view that you use with that magic bindable bindings, basically, and it's able to display asynchronous data, right? So it's able to display data in any state that it should be in at any point in time, right? And so basically that's just the wrapper that we're putting around the content. But that's how those two things work with navigation. And if there is the bottom tab bar that we were,
so far the XAML looks pretty straightforward to me.
Yeah. So this is all, for the most part it's generated, but basically, you just drop this in and you're good to go. So you have to bootstrap it, which is also done through, if you would like it to be done through the plugin. But basically, here's where you in your app.xaml you bootstrap it with the WinUI Fluent theme as you would normally. But then you have your material colors from Uno material, material fonts, your material resources, and then your toolkit resources and your resources for those toolkits to follow the material style. It's a lot right there. It's being worked on to sort of like make that way more seamless, and it's just going to be like a one-liner. But basically, that's all that's going on right here is you initialize up the resources and all those styles. Well, actually, this one will initialize all those toolkit components with the material styles, and then they're just good to go. So most of them are implicit styled, so you don't have to even worry about setting the style itself. But you do have the ability to do that. If you want to explicitly say this is the top tab bar style that I'm talking about, or the modal or the primary navigation bar the primary, secondary, or modal navigation bar variants and things like that. So all those styles are available for you in the material repository. There's also the Cupertino library as well. That is currently being worked on to bring up to the material level. But yeah, you have those available as a styling engine, whichever you'd like to choose. Yeah, and so yeah, the Figma plugin right now deals with the material one because that's obviously the more popular design system you'd want outside of to have that seamless look across all platforms. But yeah, the support for all that other stuff is coming as well.
That looks pretty cool. Now I'm getting more interested about learning Uno.
Yeah,
Dang it! Isn't that something else I need to learn? I got enough I got to learn. That looks really cool. The one question I was thinking about, and I would kind of want to ask it now since we don't have any more questions about Uno before I forget, since I tend to be forgetful sometimes, so Uno's an open source platform, right? So how do you guys make money? How does your salary get paid then?
So we actually have so basically, I don't know all the details. I'm not a finance person, but basically for Uno itself, it runs off of, I guess it's called the freemium model sort of thing. So basically it's open source, it's free. Anyone can, go ahead and make their apps with it, which people do. But then we also have like a few, these are some that I have the information for in the slides, but we have a few, what are they called? Enterprise contracts, right? So if you want to, if you're, I don't know, I guess a larger corporation or some sort of company that wants to have their apps built using Uno, and either they can ask us to build it, or they want to build it themselves. They just need support, right? So you can pay for these support contracts, basically prioritized issues and more support and blah blah blah. Not to say that we don't give you support if it's you're just doing this on your own for fun. Like we have our Discord channel, we have our GitHub discussions. We're very active with everyone. It's just there are some issues that might get prioritized because these people are paying for them, right? And
paid
so
people come first. The people with the money come first always, right?
But we do have so people like Trade Zero, for example, is a big company that's it's like a public stock trading company or whatever, and I believe they're releasing soon, or they have released, I'm not 100% sure, but they basically bet on Uno platform as their platform of choice for developing their applications. And so, we not only do that, we support them for performance enhancements after the fact, and all those things, and they get the latest bits. But at the same time, it's I would say that what a lot of people are excited about is what I talked about before, is that the WebAssembly play, right? Like lots of people want to bring their application or their whatever they have, they want to bring it to the web, and so this is one of the best ways to do it, right? So.
Cool. Yeah, because there's got to be, when you have something open source and that's your full-time job, there's got to be money coming from somewhere, right? So it's usually consulting, or like you say, support support and things like that. Do you have a separate version of Uno for people that pay, or everybody's got the same framework basically?
I mean, you could say it everyone gets the same thing, and then everyone sort of benefits. There's certain people that, say a company comes along and they need I don't know, they need the animations that we don't fully support yet that are in WinUI. That gives us that extra boost to do it, and now everyone benefits from that addition of functionality to the source code. So it helps us on both sides, I feel. So yeah.
So are there any I'm sure this is probably on your website, but since I didn't look at that part, are there any like large retailers that everybody has heard about that uses Uno? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, there are, wait, do I have the slide? 1 second. So Uno itself, can I not? Oh, it's showing. Okay, cool. So Uno itself obviously has been being used all the way from from the timeline that I showed before, just before it was open source and all that stuff. So it was being used by the parent company. I don't know. So Inventive, basically, who is a digital. Oh, you don't see the slides. Oh,
No.
Oh well.
Simon, can you? It's
anyway.
okay. Simon, can you show the slides?
No, I think.
Oh, he said he doesn't see them.
Yeah, I think it's because I hit it. Anyway,
Oh.
it's fine. I'll just keep it on this one. Oh, I'm sorry. It's because I'm dumb. That's why. I forgot that this was showing. I had this up the whole time and I didn't even notice. Okay. Yes. So we do have. So since Uno has been around for a while, it could have just been internally before this. There are large amount of clients that have their applications that are live in the store right now running Uno.
As well as that's cool.
Yeah. So and these were all built, over the years, and they're continuing support with us, as well as people like TradeZero and Kahua, which is another one that we have a big application for them to work as well. But yeah, there's plenty of production applications that are out there in the world that are being built on top of Uno right now. Cool. Right. And they definitely, on the website, they definitely have like way more in depth, like case studies. I know they have those.
Yeah. So someone did ask, but it was answered also, that can a company request a feature and that feature be included in the open source project? Yes. So
there's no
everything that's requested gets put into the open source. Yeah. That's a good way to go. Everybody, benefits from, everybody helping, right? Whether it's helping coding or helping by funding it, right?
It definitely pushes the envelope forward.
Yeah, that's cool. And are you guys located up where you live in Canada?
Yeah, in Canada. So this is all in Montreal right now. So because I'm originally from Montreal too. So like I was working with this company building these applications with Uno, back in the day, and then I lived in the States for a bit and I came back, and now I just reconnected with them. But yeah, everyone's not everyone, I guess. Most people are in Montreal. We got people in the Czech Republic, got in Australia. We got, I don't know, everywhere now. But like the main team, everyone is still there in Montreal.
Yeah, I've been trying to get to Canada to come speak at a conference, but I'm still working on it. So I do want to come up. I haven't been in Canada since the 90s, literally. Oh, wow. And when I went up there to visit a company that was working with the company I was working just a couple of blocks up the street from here. So, but I definitely want to go back to Canada. So we're getting close on time because let me try to answer these questions. And if you have anything to chime in, Hamid asked a couple of questions that weren't really Uno related. So I thought I'd at least ask him, try to answer them myself. And if you want to chime in, the first one I'm looking at is how to write firmware for, Simon, how to write firmware for microcontroller in C#. You can do that. There's the micro framework, I think it's called, from .NET. I was just looking at something this week about this, and you can write embedded code for .NET with .NET. It's based off the Mono platform, as far as I know. So yeah, the answer is basically yes, you can. And the other one was with one database. Which one database can I use in C#? For example, should be database installed together with the app if I make any app? Well, that's a question I can't really answer in one sentence. That's it really depends on what type of app you're talking about and what exactly it's doing, and if it's living on the client side or the server side. So that's a bigger question that we'd have to answer. Or shoot me an email and I'll try to answer it for you. I'll give you my email at the end of this, and shoot me an email with your question and I'll try to answer it for you in more detail. Because usually when I get questions like that, I try to turn it into an article, a blog post or something, so everybody can benefit from that answer. Because I'm sure a lot of people have that, especially beginners have that same kind of question. So before I let you go, the one question I ask all my guests on the show, except for the one they did, teaches kids programming with music, because I know what he likes to do. So what do you like to do for fun that's not coding?
Yeah, I was about to talk about more coding. Yeah. So outside of coding, I mean, yeah, we moved to Kingston recently, and we're just finding all the conservation areas and the trails and the hikes and all that stuff. We have our dog who is like a crazy thing, but we bring her out. So yeah, we really love hiking and just getting out in nature. Other than that, yeah, I'm very much a little hermit. I stay in this room and I just write code, right? Like, so yeah, I do have to get out more, but yeah, we're definitely soaking in the less, like, I'm used to the big city, right? So now we're soaking in like all this outdoor stuff that we can go to. So yeah, hiking is our new favorite thing, right? Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I kind of miss living in a smaller. I grew up in small towns, and I really miss that nature aspect of smaller towns. There's more stuff to do. I live in the 8th largest city, I guess, in America, and so yeah, we got to drive, if we want to really get into the wilderness here, and most of the wilderness around here is a freaking desert. So I don't like the heat very much. I don't like it when it's 112 degrees outside and stuff. And I always remember one time when my kids were little and we went to Vegas and we stopped at this rest, basically just a rest stop, on the way, and it was 117 degrees, and I told there was this big sign saying, the entrance to Death Valley. And I said something to my son. I go, this isn't the entrance to Death Valley. This is the entrance to hell, because this is the way I would think it feels like when it's 117 freaking degrees outside. I mean, gosh.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I don't like the heat that much either.
Yeah, and all the poor people in Europe right now dealing with heat, they don't have air conditioning. I don't, because I live near the ocean, but most people just a few miles inland from me have air conditioning.
Right.
And my kids live in Texas, and they have to have air conditioning, and yeah, so that's cool. That's one of the reasons because I'm a photographer, and so one of the reasons I always want to go to different countries is to do photography, and I really love doing nature photography.
Cool.
Well, I like things that don't move, right? Because most of the photography I do for rock bands and stuff, and that's it's horribly difficult photography. Concert photography is like one of the worst things you could ever do.
Yeah,
but I really enjoy it. But I also enjoy taking things that aren't moving around and jumping around on stage, and the lighting changing every half a second, right? So, well, I better let you go. If you want to hang out, you can. Simon and I got some stuff to talk about afterwards. But I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. And you're always, if you got something cool you're working on, you're always invited to come on here and show it off to everybody. Everybody's welcome back on the show. And thanks for spending your Saturday with us. And I learned a lot, and I hope everybody else did. And so can't wait to learn some more Uno in the future.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
That was a great session. I learned some cool stuff about Uno. Now I want to learn Uno. Oh, so much to learn. It's you younger developers out there, when you get to an older developer, it's definitely takes a longer time to learn these cool new frameworks like Uno or Blazor and things like that. It's not as easy as when I was in my early days of programming. So anyway, you're welcome, Hamid. Like I said, you're always free. Everybody's always free to reach out to me and ask me questions. Email me questions or tweet questions. I'm always around to answer them for you. And like I said, if you email me, if you send me a question I really like, I probably will turn it into a blog post or an article, so everybody benefits from your question. So I want to tell you all about my coding performance section on my website. I have tons and tons of articles up there. I'm working on updates to some of those articles right now. I'm changing this over to showing performance results for .NET 6 and 7, not 5 and 6. So I'm going to be working on that. But for you to see that you have to go to that site. Some of the ads are free and some are a monthly subscription. And so I hope you will go and subscribe, of course, because that helps me divert more of my free time to writing articles that you guys really want. So I hope you go check it out. Also, I've got a Twitter poll going on right now. I hope you'll all go to my my Twitter feed, and at the very top, you'll see this question. This is asking, which collection do you think is the fastest to use when you're using a for loop? So I asked this question last week with a different set of collections. And this week I'm whittling it down to adding 3 more. I put the winner from last week's in here, and I added 3 more. And then I have 1 more of these to do because I still have a couple more to ask you about. But I'm going to whittle down and share with you all what's, if you're using a for loop, what's the collection that's the fastest in performance. And so I hope you'll go vote on that. There's only a few days left. And so let me know what you think. I found this, I saw this week. I thought this was awesome, because this is definitely my feeling. You know, Dilbert says to his boss, I'd like to work from home so I could be more productive. Boss, of course, says, I can't manage you as easily when you're out of the office. And he says, that's why I'd be more productive. But you're missing out on all this. Yeah, exactly. We'll always be more productive if our bosses went around more. We need our bosses, but we also need them to get out of our way and let us do some work too. So I thought that was pretty funny. All right, I hope you will help me help the kids from India, the slums in India that I'll be visiting, hopefully when I go back in October. As you all know, for a couple of years now, well, ever since I left India over 3 years ago, I've been raising money for the Voice of Slum NGO in Delhi because they really need our support to help the orphan kids that they not only feed and clothe, but they also teach them, school them too. And because of the funding from you, they've been able to restart their vocational training program for women, which was my goal on raising money for the NGO. So there's lots of different ways to support the NGO. You can go to voiceofslum.org. You can go to that GoFundMe that I started, or you can buy the copy of my Code Performance book with 100% of the proceeds goes to the Voice of Slum. So I'm really excited about going back this year and visiting the kids there again, and seeing how the support that you've been sending to them through me somehow has helped the orphanage. So I'm really excited about that. All right, thanks for watching. Next week, we have author Doler on, and we're going to be switching gears. We're not going to be talking about code next week. We're going to be talking about your brain and mental health for software engineers. So it's a different kind of show that I've done before. So I hope you'll all join me. I'm always fascinated in the brain, and so is author. I can't wait to have him on the show next week. I watched one of his videos this week, and he did at a recent conference, and it was flat out one of the best sessions I've seen at a software engineering conference. And it wasn't anything about code. It was all about this thing that who writes code. So I hope you'll join us next week. Don't forget about the Code Quality Conference on August 19th. I hope you'll join us. And we're also still accepting papers if you joined late. So please go to, Simon can put the URL up real quick. And please go there and submit your papers. Also, every week, please be safe about COVID. Listen to your medical professionals. COVID's on the rise here in the US, and it looks like they're going to shut down Los Angeles pretty quick, not shut it down, but indoor mask mandate. And I think where I live here in San Diego, we're not far behind. So we're not over this. I actually heard on the news this week that we'll probably won't be over this in our lifetimes, which is sad. But anyway, so please be safe. Take care of yourselves, because I want you back here on another episode of this show. And in the meantime, please, 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 please donate blood at your local blood bank. I donated a couple weeks ago. I'll be donating again in a couple more weeks. It's a really good way to help your fellow human while all blood banks in the world have shortages right now. And all you need to do is go down and take a half hour of your time and donate some blood, which can help up to 3 people. So it's easy to do. I literally, when I got poked 2 weeks ago, it hurt less than my COVID shot. So it's not painful at all. So I hope you'll go donate. And if you donate on the weekend and send me proof of that and have a US address, I will send you some swag, which will probably include one of my books as long as supplies last. So send me some proof on Twitter and I'll send you some swag. Okay. With that, thanks so much for being on the show today. I had a great time talking with Steve about Uno. And if you have any questions, comments, suggestions for the show, please email me. I'm lonely. I haven't got any email in a while. To Rockin The Code World at CSharpCorner.com. I'll see you next week.